How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? We made it again. It is Wednesday, and you know every Wednesday on this channel we cover your Bulls hot takes and my reaction to them. Guys, we did just get breaking news that the Bulls will have to forfeit a second-round pick in the tampering investigation for Lonzo Ball. I did want to make a separate video on that, so I'll do that likely for tomorrow, because I'm sure more details will be coming in as the day goes on, and so we'll be able to share more at that time. But I did want to still take care of hot takes because we do it every Wednesday. Guys, I am going to start switching things up a bit because I've been doing the hot take series every Wednesday since last season. I feel the takes and content are getting a little redundant, and a lot of you have been liking the Would You Rather videos. So going forward, I am going to rotate every Wednesday between hot takes and Would You Rather. So next Wednesday, it'll be a Would You Rather scenario. The following week, back to hot takes, and so on. And so for those who haven't seen the Would You Rather series, essentially I react to scenarios that you guys submit and what I would choose between those two options. The example I always give is which would be the first one I received on the channel, and it sparked the idea to start this series when someone asked me, would you rather have Denzel Valentine back on the Bulls playing 15 minutes per game or Jim Boylen back as the Bulls head coach? So feel free to submit your Would You Rather questions or hot takes in the comments of this video, and I'll try my best to get to as many as I can. You can also submit your hot takes or Would You Rathers on the Discord, which you should absolutely join. The link to the Discord can be found in the description. Also, real quick, in case you missed my last video, I did a dedicated video on our guy Alex Caruso, his story and rise to the NBA, so feel free to check it out if you're interested. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into the hot takes. So what's going on, everyone? You were listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Our first hot take comes to us from Quentin Velez. At this rate, with how the Bulls are playing, they will finish as a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, securing home court advantage throughout the postseason. So here's the thing, how the Eastern Conference is shaping up a quarter of the way into the season. And I'm sure things will start separating a bit as we get further into the season. But if last season was any indication, it was a pretty close contested race when it came to seeding in the playoffs, with the exception of the top 3 seeds. Now, as of right now, the Bulls are sitting second in the East, 1.5 games back behind the Brooklyn Nets, which sounds incredible, and it actually is to even be that high in the standings given how bad the team has been over the past few years. But despite having the 2 seed, they are only 1.5 games in front of the 6 seed and just 2.5 games from falling to the 11 seed. 2.5 games separates a team finishing as a 2 seed and missing the play-in. Granted, it's not going to end up being that close by the end of the season. There is going to be some separation between seeds, but the point is, this hot take is so hard to react to because on one hand, you could say that this is wildly optimistic, but at the same time, with the way that the East is trending and how competitive the Bulls have been and are able to remain despite going through some growing pains, you could say that it's not even really that bold of a take. But what I will say, though, is that I think a team like the Bucks, who have finally started getting it together, they'll be right there at the top of the Eastern Conference. The Heat are going to be right there as well. The Sixers, now that they have Embiid and Harris back, will be right in the mix too. And I wouldn't sleep on the Hornets either. So honestly, I have no idea at this point where the Bulls are going to land by the time the season finishes. What I do know is that they will be a playoff team, unlike what some are predicting, and I have confidence that they will skip the play-in tournament. In other words, they'll finish as a top 6 team in the East. Next, we've got 0x Hakubi. Vooch is not as viable as he once was. In the next 4 years, he will bounce from team to team and then out of the league. He overachieved on the Magic and hit his ceiling before joining the Bulls. No. I mean, I agree that Vooch has likely peaked as a player. He is 31 years old, and it's pretty rare for a player at that age to actually get better or enter their prime after the age of 30. But to say that Vucevic overachieved on the Magic isn't accurate at all. See, what's impressive about Vucevic is how he's been able to adapt his game with the changing times of the league. When Vucevic entered the NBA, he was not at all a three-point shooter or a shooter in general. He was mainly a post-up player and a center who mainly just operated in the paint on both ends of the floor. But as the league started shifting more towards floor spacing and outside shooting, Vucevic worked on and improved his outside shooting, which not only made him a strong interior threat, but also someone you had to respect from outside. Vucevic has been able to elevate his game over the course of his career into being one of the best big men in the league, and I wouldn't say that's because he just overachieved putting up stats on a bad team. He was simply in a different role with different expectations and excelled in his role on the Magic. And now that he's on a team where he isn't the number 1 or even number 2 option, he's had to adapt his game even further, which takes a bit of time getting used to. And yes, Vucevic has struggled and started off the season a bit slow, but you also have to understand that as it started looking like he was getting in rhythm after the first few games, he entered the health and safety protocol and missed nearly 2 weeks of action. And that's going to take a toll on the body. And even though, you know, I've had some concerns around Vucevic with his just general confidence in his game, but it was incredibly encouraging to see him have a big game against the Hornets, and hopefully it's a sign that he's starting to finally get back to rhythm, because with Vucevic playing like he did the other night, combined with the rest of the talent on this roster, would make the Bulls a force in the Eastern Conference. And I think it's also important to note that Vucevic as a player typically starts off seasons a little slow and finally starts breaking out around December, January timeframe. So anyway, to say that he overachieved and will bounce around from team to team for the next 4 years and be out of the league is reaching, to say the least. I don't know if he'll remain on the Bulls beyond his contract in 2023, depending on where the Bulls are at, what their salary cap looks like, what other free agent targets they'll be pursuing, but I do know that Vucevic will still be a serviceable big man and not be out of the league in a matter of 4 years. That's the good thing about Vucevic, is that his game doesn't rely on athleticism, and as a result, he's likely to be more durable and have more longevity than other players in the league. Next, we've got Mick Lizard. The Bulls should start Alex Caruso over either Lonzo or Javonte Green. Well, I don't agree that Caruso should start over Lonzo. As much as I like Caruso and what he brings to the team, Lonzo is an all-around better player between the two, and is much better suited starting at the point guard spot over Caruso. Now, Javonte Green, on the other hand, well, we saw Caruso get the start over Javonte when Vucevic was out and the Bulls had to start Tony Bradley as a result, and Billy Donovan did this really as a way to help spread the floor and improve the overall playmaking of the team. Of course, once Vucevic was reinserted back into the lineup, Javonte Green got the start again. And to be honest, I'm fine with it. I mean, Caruso has done a phenomenal job in coming off the bench and leading that second unit. He gets the bulk of the minutes anyways. Javonte, although yes, he's starting, only gets about 17 to 20 minutes a game. So I think the balance works with the Bulls and what they have, because between Green, what he does give you is some, and I emphasize some because I think Green is still too small to be a power forward, but he gives you some size at that role just because he plays much bigger than his height at 6'4". Next, we've got, and related to the last one, we've got Parzival. Caruso is the best free agent signing for the Chicago Bulls. This is an interesting one because I believe it was last week someone brought up the fact that DeRozan would go down as the Bulls' best free agency signing in history, which a little too soon to be making that claim. But I brought up how it depends on if you're just talking about best signing from an overall talent perspective, or rather the type of value you get from said signing related to their contract. Because no question, if we're just looking at the Bulls' offseason free agency signing, DeMar DeRozan was our best signing talent-wise. But we also gave him a pretty sizable 3-year, $85 million contract. Caruso, on the other hand, obviously not as good as DeRozan is, side by side, but based on his skills and what he brings to the Bulls team and how impactful he is on the court relative to his contract, which this season sits at $8.6 million, yeah, you could argue he was in fact the Bulls' best free agent signing, based on value and overall impact they bring to the team. Obviously, DeRozan is the best player when you look across free agents that were brought in, but Caruso may be the best steal of a free agent that the Bulls signed. Next, we've got Sei Ogunubi. The Bulls should waive Matt Thomas and sign Marquise Chris. Doing this, you get rid of a player that you don't use, and you get a serviceable power forward who can contribute on both ends. Well, I've said before, I was pretty surprised that the Bulls decided to go with Matt Thomas as their last roster spot, given they were already heavy in the backcourt, and there just simply wouldn't be a role for him, especially with Coby coming back. And you're right, the guy barely plays except for when it's garbage time. But Marquise Chris, I'm not sure he's the answer, but I guess at the same time, I get what you're saying. Like, Chris doesn't necessarily have to be an answer, more so if you're not going to use Matt Thomas at all and you're short on size, why not take a chance on a guy like Chris, who is a big man that can play both ends of the floor? I do remember when Chris played on the Warriors and thinking he's decent as a big man, but to be honest, I haven't really seen too much of him and what he's been able to do since then. I need to do a little bit more research on him, because my philosophy is if a player has been a free agent for this long and no team wants to pick them up, it's probably for a reason, and they're simply just not good enough to be in the league anymore. I could be wrong on Chris, though. I need to do a little more research on that guy. Let's do one more, and this one comes to us from Diego Aroba. The Bulls will have a 10-plus game winning streak this season. Now, I know others have said this as well, and I think it's important to call out just how hard it is to go on a winning streak of even 10 games in the NBA anymore. I know the Suns are on a crazy winning streak right now and proving that it is still possible, but in today's NBA, with the talent pool being so heavy and competitive, with the schedules being compact with back-to-back games, 4 games in 5 nights, players getting injured, it makes it incredibly difficult for even the best of teams to go on a winning streak over 10 or more games. Part of it is because there is so much parity in the league, part of it is because of the grueling schedules, and part of it is just the overall level of competition and how even bad teams can have great games on any given night. The Bulls losing to the Rockets should be a case in point of that. When you look at easy patches of schedules even, you fall to a bad team every so often, which again makes it challenging to even string together a 10-plus game winning streak. I hope I'm wrong, because I would love to see the Bulls go on a 10-game winning streak at some point this season. I just don't see it happening, even for how good the team is. I'll end it there for this week though, guys. Be sure to leave your would you rather scenarios in the comments below and your hot takes, either one. The Bulls will be taking on the Knicks tomorrow night. I'll have a live group chat on that in the channel and on the Discord. As always, be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would very much appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.